As we know, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a profound impact on education across the world, from the shift from face-to-face to e-learning models and the impacts that it's had on students' mental health. Yet we're so inspired by how students, teachers, and education leaders have responded to the pandemic, and we want to share those stories. On this episode, I'm really excited to be speaking to Brent Scholar. Thank you so much for meeting with us today and speaking to us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Imani. I'm a professor of organizational leadership at Arizona State University, and I do work with ShapingEDU. So I'm excited to be here.
Take us back to March 2020 when, the world was starting to go in lockdown. I know different educators have different experiences. For them, it was like a big shock into online, but your experience was slightly different.
The going online part that a lot of people struggled with was not anything that I had to struggle with because I had been teaching online for over a decade already. So I knew the systems. I'm one who does things early. I'm an early adopter of some new technologies. I did help a lot of my peers and colleagues. We had some special meetings where I taught about just technology and how to interact with students. What was very interesting was my reaction. At the time, my office mate and I actually didn't really see each other a lot in the office. But we decided that for ourselves, we were going to do some Zoom work meetings. When we looked at this about July or so of 2020, we saw that I went into work, right, and dove into the overworking and doing too much. And she pulled back. She slept more. She was more internalizing things. And even though she was getting stuff done during our work sessions, wasn't doing much of else. When we discovered that, we were talking about trauma because we considered this situation a trauma experience for the world. And with that, the responses that we had are two very similar trauma responses. And once we recognized that, we could then support each other.
What are some of the impacts that you observed in students?
We saw the same things in our students because nobody knew what was going on. Some people, again, just did it, and other people didn't. And it wasn't until I went after them and said, hey, are you okay? Not, why aren't you doing your work? And it was just a lot. And just to hear what they were going through in their stories was very, very emotional.
Students could be struggling with their mental health. How do you actually know?
I'm a doctor, but I'm not that type of doctor, right? I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. But what were the signs? Overworking, completely disengaging. If they were reaching out to me, then that's a sign that their mental health could be a little rocky. But I certainly was never diagnosing anybody. But what I did do is I provided resources for students, and I just encouraged them to use them and to talk to each other.
If you had to sum up some of the best practices for other educators on how to engage students, what kind of advice would you give?
So, best things, videos. I always do a welcome video so that they get to see who I am. I share pictures of what I've been doing. I thought it was very important to share, I'm a human being too, going through COVID too. Giving specific feedback to students. If your learning management system allows it, and Canvas does, I also give students video feedback, pulling little things out that I've read their stuff, and then, letting them know that I'm there for them. And then I leave them the same. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, let me know. If you can only do written, then make sure it's specific to them. What else to stay engaged? I use something that's called Perusal. Yellow Dig Engage was something that I started actually as well. It was not one that I really liked. It looks more like social media. So students actually do like it, and we give them a lot of freedom about what they talk about. I am not a fan of a traditional discussion board. So recording some smaller lectures that students, if they can't come to my chats, there are so many different things out there. You can't do them all, but find the thing that you love and do that. And then really just be there for them and ask them how they're doing. I still do that today.
What would you say are some of the benefits of online teaching? And are there any drawbacks?
So, the drawbacks are you're not necessarily connecting. And there are some students that just do it on their own. And even if they have an issue, they don't want to reach out and ask for help. But the freedom that you have, that flexibility is important. What you can learn online today is amazing.
With the students, would you say that empathy played a role?
Empathy was all we had. I think it really just comes down to remembering we're all human beings. It's about them as a person. not them as a number. And that is very much appreciated.